that are injury prone. It's just really annoying to deal with. George Pickens.
Yeah. All right. Putting aside Pickens' personal issues and his locker room presence, you can't dismiss his talent. He had 63 receptions for 1,140 yards and 5 touchdowns. And I know he had there were several of those touchdowns that were maybe over 40 yards, I think. I think he's a little high on this list. Wiggs thinks I'm faded. Uh, you know, could he be in the top 20 this year? Yeah, maybe. He was 30 last year. I don't know. Um, Here's what I gotta say. I think it all depends on who's playing quarterback. To be quite honest with you, I just watched an interview with him today, and he was talking up Justin Fields like crazy. And I know that him and Fields have had a connection, but they've got I just don't think that they've got what I would consider a legitimate wide receiver too. They drafted
Roman Wilson.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
Did they draft Roman Wilson? Well, I was looking at somebody else. So, yeah, they drafted Roman Wilson, and they got Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin. So I don't know. Plus they do have Freiermuth and stuff. So I feel he's gonna take a dip this year, but I could be wrong. I think it all depends. If Fields beats out Russell Wilson, I think Pickens could have a legitimate shot of being in the top 20. Because look at what Fields did with DJ Moore last year. If Russell Wilson ends up being the starting quarterback, I gotta wait and see how that goes. Because I'm just not convinced Russell Wilson's gonna have. I think to be honest with you, from what I'm reading, there's a legitimate competition for who's going to be their quarterback this year, and I think Fields is giving them every reason to possibly pick him over Wilson, especially since Wilson's been dealing with injuries during training camp.
Yeah, he's old, doesn't see the talent. That's all I gotta say.
No, I see the talent. I didn't say anything about his talent.
Think about this. He had 1,140 yards with terrible quarterback play, with 5 touchdowns. It doesn't matter if it's Wilson or Fields. He's gonna have more yards than 1,140. He's gonna have probably. I won't give him a lot more on touchdowns, maybe 6 to 8, somewhere in there. But I think he's gonna have 70+ receptions. I could see him easily being top 20, maybe top 15. I think he's gonna have a good year, regardless of quarterback. Like I personally think Fields is a good quarterback. I know going into last year I didn't think that, but after watching Fields play last year, I don't know why he's not a starter on a team. To be completely honest, it blows my mind that he's not. He could be here, but I just don't think it matters really who the quarterback is. Fields has shown that he can do it with the receiver with talent,
and we'll
DJ
find
Moore,
out.
and Russell Wilson has also showed it several times with someone like DK Metcalf, and then finding someone like Tyler Lockett. And Roman Wilson could be a nice compliment if healthy. I don't know if he's going to be active or not, because I know he was injured at one point here in camp. But
let me just go on record as saying you guys heard me say that he's got a lot of talent, and if Fields is the starting quarterback, that I could see him having a similar year as DJ Moore. Okay, I didn't say what this clown said.
He's going to be top 20 regardless. It doesn't matter. He's got a vendetta against Wilson, okay? Yeah, you can't even deny that either.
I didn't say I don't have a vendetta against him. I just think he's not the same quarterback.
Jaylen Waddle.
Jaylen Waddle, to me, he's a great compliment to Tyreek Hill. I can't say enough about this guy. I mean, he's had over 1,000 yards each of his first 3 seasons. He's averaged, over 100 targets. He had 72 receptions last year, 4 touchdowns. I actually think that Jaylen Waddle is actually going to have a more productive year this year because last year he only played 14 games, so he missed 3. So I definitely think that Jaylen Waddle could be around that 90 reception um, range and around 1,300 yards, if not a little bit more. And I could see him having anywhere from 7 to 10 touchdowns. Yeah, I don't think anybody can argue that Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle are probably the best receiving core in the league right now. I mean, I know people might want to debate it, but I'm sorry. I just those two are beasts, and they complement each other really, really well. And I just if he stays healthy and he doesn't miss any games this year, which he missed one game his rookie year, which could have been early in the season, but but he played all 17 games in 2022 and he missed 3 games last year. So it's not like he's been really fighting injuries. So I definitely see him having a better year than last year. I definitely think he's a wide receiver 1 for sure. I I wouldn't even put him any lower than a wide receiver 1. I mean, um, you know, I definitely think that he's gonna have those type of numbers. Obviously low end wide receiver 1, but I still think he's a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I'd say low end wide receiver 1, high end 2, depending who you have on your team. But um, looking at his stats from last year, this guy easily would have been over 1,200 yards last year if fully healthy, and he probably would have added on another touchdown or 2 there as well. And realistically, just adding in another few touchdowns and probably another 10 receptions with a few hundred yards, he probably would have been a top 15 wide receiver last year. And I think that'll just be one of those trends for him. He'll just get the ball a lot and be fine. I always think he'll be probably in that top 20 to 25 range, but um, I know people said, oh, he had a bit of a rough year last year, but looking at it, he really didn't. He just lacked touchdowns and missed a few games. That was really it.
Yeah. Nope, I agree with you.
Plus, he's fighting for freaking yards and targets behind Tyreek. This dude's got 2 challenges behind. Like, he's got to, play to get paid, but then he's also trying to, compete with Tyreek freaking Hill, the freak of a nature. Like, you can't blame him for not having more yards and more touchdowns. And realistically, Tyreek probably wouldn't have had the year he had. Not knocking him, but he probably would have been like 150 yards shorter than what he had if Waddle was fully healthy. Michael Pittman.
Yeah, Michael Pittman's hard to judge. I know Wiggs, he's not fully convinced Pittman's gonna have a great year because of how they started last year, really, and stuff. But he still ended up with almost 1,200 yards on 109 receptions, 4 touchdowns in only 16 games. He's been pretty consistent, with the exception of his rookie year. I think Pittman's gonna have a great year. I really think that him and Richardson are gonna find that common ground. I think that Richardson being able to scramble and buy some more time is only gonna help Pittman because I think Pittman's got he's got a good knack of getting open and finding that open spot. So not to mention he's 6'4", big guy. I feel like Pittman's going to have a similar type year, maybe even a little bit better. I definitely think he's going to be in the top 20. I definitely think he's a starting receiver, wide receiver 1 for sure. I like him. I think he's going to have another great year.
I like Pittman. My only issue is the fact that I didn't see him and Richardson, and don't get me wrong, Richardson barely played last year, but they just couldn't find any common ground right away, and that kind of worries me a little bit going into this year. I don't know if Richardson didn't get hurt. I don't think we see the season that we saw last year from Pittman. I think a lot of that came down to the fact that he just had a really good connection with Minshew whenever Minshew was in, which was for most of the year. And to me, that's what sways me kind of away from him a little bit. I really like Pittman since he's joined the league. I've always thought he's been good, but I don't know. It makes me nervous going into this year, and then they add in a Donnie Mitchell into this offense as well. So I don't know. And to me, this kind of just a little bit feels like a Green Bay type receiving core. Not as talented, but like Josh Downs and Donnie Mitchell.
Yeah, but
Alec
Downs is hurt now.
Pierce.
They did lose Downs, and I'm not sure when he's going to be back. So,
But a Donnie Mitchell and Pierce still, there's a lot. There's actually a lot of talent in this receiving core.
yeah, but I still think Pittman's going to be the guy. So,
but I don't know. I don't think I see him over 1,000 yards this year. To be honest, I think he's just slightly short of it at like 9 something. With
I think he's faded here, guys.
Nah. Well, here's my thing.
What do you got in that drink?
No. Hear me out. I don't think he's going to get all the receptions or receiving yards, but I do think his touchdown production is going to go up, and I could see him borderline breaking into top 20.
I think you spiked your drink over there.
No, I'm just realistic. Marvin Harrison Jr.
Listen, you know, this is another one in this wide receiving rookie group. You know, I obviously Harrison went to a good he went to a good spot where he can have a lot of production. They do have Greg Dortch. They did bring in Zay Jones. So I definitely think that, you know, they got Michael Wilson there. Obviously, they got, you know, what's supposed to be considered one of the best tight ends this year in fantasy in McBride. You know, Marvin Harrison is definitely really, really talented. I think that he's definitely going to be drafted high. He's probably going to, you know, be a, you got to say he's going to be a wide receiver one, at least a low end to start with that, possibly going up. He's going to be a good young receiver. I just need to see it first. I think that he's been playing with a lot of distractions right now. I hope he's 100% focused. So I'm just not quite sure, you know, what that means. I don't, you know, Murray was hurt last year, so I really don't know, you know, what that means for him. Sorry, Wiggs is playing around with stuff here, which is really just throwing me off.
You can still talk.
So, anyways, you know, I think he'll be productive. Wide receiver one, I think he'll probably have, you know, I could see him having maybe 70, 80 receptions for 1,200 yards. But it's hard to predict. You know, some of these rookie wide receivers, you know, struggle. So he could struggle at the beginning of the year and then come off really, really strong.
I have a question for you. Do you think he's the best wide receiver in this class?
I think that it's debatable. Why'd you switch that?
Yeah, I had mine and yours switched there, and I noticed you had 218s there, so figured I'd get that up on screen at least, so it was correct.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be I think you can make an argument that there's a few other receivers that might have a better year than him.
I personally, of the draft class, I think Malik Neighbors was the best receiver. I just don't think he fell into a good spot. I think Harrison fell probably into the best spot of those top three guys. Not taking anything away from Odunze, but I think Malik Neighbors, to me, was the top guy. Odunze was the second. I think Harrison was the third in my eyes. But I think things just kind of fell in a better position for at least Harrison and Neighbors. I don't know. Moving on. DJ Moore.
I think DJ Moore is going to have another good year. I don't know that he's going to have the same year that he did last year. I think that I don't think he's, I'd be surprised if he has 96 receptions. I think that bringing in Keenan Allen and then drafting Udunze like they did is definitely going to impact his production. I've heard that Udunze's having a really good training camp as well, and I've kept up on them because obviously they're in the NFC North. Um, but with that all said, I still think DJ Moore, has the potential to be around that, 80 to 90 reception range. Depending, it all kind of depends on Caleb Williams and and how well he adjusts to the speed of the game. Can he get the ball where it needs to be for more? But I can still see him, around that, 80 to 90 reception range. I definitely think, he could be around the 1,200 yards. He could be a little bit higher, a little bit lower. I think, again, it's hard to judge with a rookie quarterback. I definitely think he'll be around that 8 to 10 touchdown range. Again, so I feel he's going to be, I feel he's definitely a wide receiver one for sure. He's definitely going to be, right around the top 15. He could even push up a little bit higher. He could go a little bit lower. He's definitely going to be in the top 20 for sure.
Yeah, I was torn between him and Allen and where to put these guys. I don't know. It's really hard to judge, like you said, with the rookie quarterback and how long it'll take Williams to get into the swing of things. I'm really hoping Williams can, just pull a CJ Stroud from last year, and maybe we could see two of these guys over 1,000 yards. I mean, I got DJ Moore as one of my keepers in my league, so that's kind of like I'm just sitting there like I need him to do good, but
I will say this: I think that he's one of the receivers that doesn't get enough love. I think that if you look at what he did in Carolina, he was really he really just did not get enough love. I mean, in the 5 seasons he was with Carolina, 3 of those seasons he had over 1,100 yards. One of those seasons he had almost 900 yards, and the two of those 1,100 yard seasons he only played 15 games. So he missed a couple games. Or at least 1 or 2 games those seasons. I mean, his rookie year he still had about 800 yards. I think that he's not given enough love. I really don't, and I think the Bears, um, you know, you know, I'm not going to say they made a mistake by getting rid of Fields. I'm just saying I think that they were onto something with Fields and DJ Moore, and when they didn't decide to keep Fields, and go with Caleb, Williams, I think obviously it's gonna. I think it might hit Moore's production because they did finally decide to bring some talent in around their quarterback.
I'll be the first to say they made a mistake by letting Fields go. I don't care. It's like that was just stupid.
But they did bring. They finally brought some talent in on the offense. So, but I still think DJ Moore is going to have a really good year and is number one receiver.
I'm on the border. I have him ranked where I think he could be, but I don't think he'd be any higher than 14.